Hello. We're in a strange situation at present. We've virtually got mass hysteria. Probably about 1,800 people at the most have died. They're not splitting up things into Delta and Omicron because they want to confuse us, even though they think they don't want to confuse us. That's the authorities. Things aren't put in context. People cannot make decisions themselves. The government wants to just have people operating like robots, doing what they're told to do. Now, to put things in context, as I said, 1,800 people at the most have died in 2 years. Most of those have been over 70, and I think the average age is around about 85. Hardly anyone with any kind of reasonable health has died under 60. Fewer than 50 people have died under 40, and no one under 20. Now, this means it's a bit like pneumonia and normal influenza. It carries off the elderly. It's not always, it's just the final nail in the coffin. They've got other serious illnesses that would kill them shortly anyhow. Now, we don't want people dying earlier than they should, but all these jabs, we're supposed to have 3 jabs now, and people are talking of 4. And the reality is that jabs don't stop the spread. Someone who's infectious but not vaccinated isn't any more dangerous than someone who is vaccinated but still dangerous because they're carrying the virus in their nose and what have you. So the vaccine doesn't cut down on infection, doesn't stop infection from anyone. Now, what we've been told is the injection stops you getting seriously ill and maybe dying of COVID. But we're now hearing stories where double vaccinated people or triple vaccinated people get sick. Now, I'm not against the vaccination. I don't know enough about it. But what's interesting is a person with a similar name to me called Malone, I'm Maloney, he virtually invented, I'll use the word invented, created might be better, the vaccine platform. That's where he's been working on viruses and vaccinations for years. It's disputed whether he actually did create the actual platform for the new vaccines, but most people with any kind of brain say he was a major contributor at the very least. And as he says himself in a video, even if you don't accept me as the creator of the platform, I'm an expert in the field. You should at least listen to me as another point of view. We've moved into a kind of debate that's really medieval. Things are black and white, right and wrong. Look at the case with male and female. In the left-wing media, males are regarded as Satan and women are regarded as Snow White. That's just what happens. And yet people have had an education where they're supposed to see the complexity of things. I'm amazed at how many people with university educations, even in the sciences, are falling for this pandemic scam. Now, it's not a scam altogether. People do get sick from it, but it's fairly minor, even in the United States. 0.2 of the population has died. That's 1/5 of 1%, which isn't good, around about 800,000. And of course, half of those probably were elderly people that could be pushed over the edge by almost any bug, other illness. I'm fairly old, so I could be knocked off. Um, it's the world's gone mad again. In fact, the world's mad most of the time. It's just that I was born in 1945, and in Australia from 1945 to now, we haven't had much madness. We've had some, and we've had RSI, and we've had other, you know, problems, but they've been fairly minor. But I mean, to go off a bit in the left wing, but still relevant. I mean, communism was madness. Nazism was madness. Mussolini's fascism was madness. We had madness in Cambodia with Pol Pot. We had madness in China with Mao, which was a version of communism. So Japan went mad during the Second World War. Her situation was a bit more understandable, but certainly not justified. So this madness is not new, but we've got to counteract it. Some people think there's a big conspiracy among powerful people to re-educate the world so they'll do what they're told, a bit like is happening in China and North Korea at present. I'm not quite sure about that, but people do hold that view. Actually, there was a Russian defector in the 1970s whose name was Yuri Bezmenov. I'm not quite sure whether that was his real name. He'd been high up in the KGB. He was working in India, and he defected to the West. And he lived in Canada mostly. He gave a few TV interviews explaining how Russia was white-anting Western democracies. They would get their ideas, or any ideas that they thought would disrupt the country, into universities. And to some extent, this is all debatable, postmodernism is one of these mad theories. It's got some basis, but when you read about it, even the most intelligent of people find that many of the advocates are intelligible. So if someone who's in this field and really smart, they have trouble making their way through the text because the texts are just abstract words that sound good, then there's a problem with the theory. Now, younger people, 50 and